Welcome to this explainer. For as long as humanity has been around, we've looked up at the moon. It's our constant, silent companion up there, right? It's this beautiful silver beacon that guided our ancestors. It physically pulls on our ocean tides, and honestly, it's the centerpiece of so many of our oldest myths. It's literally the most familiar object in the night sky. But here's the thing. Despite it being right next door to Earth, cosmically speaking, it is still a source of profound mystery. Now, we all know the standard textbook story of our lunar neighbor. But today we're going to look at it through a completely different, wildly unconventional, and just absolutely fascinating lens. Let's just cut right to the chase with a huge, stark question. Is the moon an alien spaceship? Okay, I know, it sounds like pure science fiction, like something straight out of a vintage comic book or a late-night sci-fi B-movie. But believe it or not, this is exactly what a fringe, yet surprisingly persistent theory actually suggests. It's called the hollow moon hypothesis, and it pushes this radical, total mind-bender of an idea, that our moon isn't a natural rock at all. Instead, it's an artificial structure. Some folks actually argue it could be a massive, hollowed-out ancient spacecraft deliberately parked in Earth's orbit millions of years ago by highly advanced extraterrestrials. Wild, right? Think of this whole explainer as our own little cosmic investigation. In one corner, we've got the rock-solid mainstream scientific view. The moon is a natural, cold, rocky satellite formed from a massive planetary collision billions of years ago. Simple enough. But then, in the other corner, we have this completely contrasting concept of the moon as a literal sentinel in the sky. It's bizarre, sure, but you have to admit it's undeniably captivating. If we entertain it, even just for a second, it completely flips the script on everything we think we know about our closest celestial neighbor and our actual place in the universe. Okay, let's dive into this. To really get a grip on the logic of a hollow moon, we have to look at where the idea even came from. Now, you'd probably assume a theory this out there started on some random internet message board, right? Just cooked up late at night by anonymous posters. But surprisingly, the genesis of this idea is actually academic. There's a very specific, deliberate logic to it that goes way back, rooted in early, pre-internet observations of the moon's actual physical traits and its orbital mechanics. So let's walk through the timeline of how this extraordinary idea took shape. Picture this, it's the 1960s, long before we all had smartphones, and crucially, before humans had even landed on the lunar surface. The seeds of this theory were actually planted in a published Soviet scientific paper. Then, humanity achieves the impossible. We actually set foot on the moon, starting in 1969 with the Apollo missions, and we bring back a wealth of brand new seismic data. But here is the kicker. Instead of that hard data crushing these bizarre fringe theories once and for all, some of it actually seemed to fan the flames. It gave birth to the highly detailed, ongoing modern belief in the hollow moon that's still floating around today. Let's rewind back to the 60s for a second. Two Soviet scientists, Michael Vazin and Alexander Sherbakov, dropped a paper with an incredibly provocative title. They literally asked, is the moon the creation of alien intelligence? And listen, their core argument wasn't just throwing darts at a board. They carefully pointed out that the moon's physical characteristics were just too anomalous to be entirely natural, focusing heavily on its mass and density. You see, standard physics says that if the moon were a solid, natural rock of its massive size, its internal density should be way higher than what we actually measure. So proponents of the theory look at that exact discrepancy and say the inside isn't packed with dense rock and heavy iron. It's mostly empty, or, as they suggest, maybe filled with incredibly complex alien machinery. And then we get the Apollo data, the data that theorists still point to as their absolute, undeniable proof. When astronauts walked on the moon, they left behind these super-sensitive seismic instruments to record moonquakes. And on several occasions, after the moon was intentionally hit by discarded lunar modules or smacked by stray meteorites, those instruments picked up something totally astonishing. The moon vibrated. And not just for a little bit. It vibrated for extended periods. The famous phrase is that it rang like a bell. For theorists, this resonance is the absolute smoking gun. Think about it. A giant sphere of solid rock shouldn't echo like a cosmic gong, right? Therefore, they passionately argue it must be a hollow metallic shell ringing out in the vacuum of space. So if we actually entertain this spectacular idea for a minute, we inevitably have to ask about motives. I mean, if the moon truly is an artificial sentinel, why on earth is it here? Literally, what is the overarching architecture of this alien design? What specific,
calculated purpose does it serve, just hanging right there in our night sky, locked in a perfect synchronous rotation with us?
Well, proponents of the theory have come up with some truly grand cosmic motives to answer that. Some suggest the moon is basically a massive mothership, a mobile, stealthy command station, observing Earth's biological and technological development from a safe, quiet distance, kind of like a cosmic stakeout. Others take it a step further, arguing it might be a galactic broadcast hub, relaying signals across the universe. But honestly, maybe the most fascinating idea of all is that it acts as a deliberate planetary anchor. The thought here is that it's a massive gravitational counterweight, specifically placed to stabilize Earth's rotation and artificially create the perfect, delicate seasonal conditions we needed for complex life to evolve. And the theorists don't just stop at motives. They claim the physical evidence of this mega construction is literally written all over the lunar surface. Just look at the craters. They point out the glaring uniformity of impact crater depths. They argue that no matter how massive or fast an incoming asteroid is, the resulting craters seem to max out at a surprisingly shallow depth. To a hollow mooner, this looks exactly like space debris slamming into a hard, impenetrable metallic subsurface, rather than digging deep into natural rock. Plus, they point to the Maria, those dark, flat plains we see on the moon. While scientists will tell you those are ancient, dried volcanic lava flows, theorists propose these vast, flat areas are actually exterior plating, like the hull of an immense constructed vessel, seamlessly fused together with highly advanced alien tech. Okay, I'll admit, it is an incredibly compelling narrative. It's perfectly crafted for a blockbuster science fiction epic. But to truly understand this enduring mystery, it's time for the scientific rebuttal. We need to pull back the curtain and look closely at how modern lunar science completely triumphs over these fringe theories. Let's meticulously examine the actual, verified physics behind these fascinating lunar anomalies. And this brilliantly illustrates the scientific reality of the famous ringing bell mystery. Modern lunar science has elegantly and completely solved this puzzle. And surprise, surprise, it has absolutely nothing to do with a hollow metal sphere. Think about Earth for a second. Our soil and rocks are thoroughly packed with moisture. Water acts like a massive planetary shock absorber, rapidly dampening and absorbing any seismic vibrations. But the moon? The moon is bone dry. It's a shattered, chaotic landscape of endlessly fractured rock with absolutely zero moisture to cushion a blow. So, when a discarded module or a meteorite violently hits the surface, that seismic energy travels through the dry, fractured rock with almost minimal resistance. It bounces back and forth, creating those extended vibrations that sounded exactly like a ringing bell to early, puzzled researchers. To firmly ground our understanding in the absolute certainty of modern science, we have to look at NASA's groundbreaking GRAIL mission. GRAIL stands for Gravity Recovery and Interior Laboratory. This was a highly sophisticated mission involving 2 spacecraft flying in precise formation. Their goal? To map the moon's gravity field with extreme, unprecedented precision. They basically X-rayed the moon, allowing scientists to practically see right through the lunar surface. And the data collected from GRAIL, it is absolutely definitive. It comprehensively confirms that while the moon is indeed slightly less dense than the Earth overall, it is absolutely categorically not hollow. No alien machinery in there, folks. GRAIL revealed a complex, heavily layered interior with a distinct crust, a deep mantle, and a solid, identifiable core. This whole structural composition perfectly matches a violent, natural geological formation process from the early days of our solar system. The hard data proves once and for all that while our moon is a geologically fascinating, wonderfully distinct world of its own, it is undeniably solid through and through. So this brings us to a deeply fascinating question. If we have such overwhelming, precise, and widely available scientific evidence thoroughly debunking the idea of an artificial satellite, we have to shift our lens back to humanity. Why does the hollow moon theory still persist? Why does this specific, wildly improbable idea continue to capture our collective imagination decades after the Apollo landings and the GRAIL mappings? Well, it really comes down to human psychology and our deep-seated relationship with the unknown. You see, the moon acts as this perfect, luminous, blank slate for our human story. By boldly entertaining the idea that our satellite is an artificial construction, we're actively transforming a silent, distant, dead rock into a living, breathing participant in our daily lives. We turn it into a watchful guardian or a mysterious ancient visitor from the stars. Ultimately, it becomes a brilliant canvas for our deepest cosmic anxieties and our unyielding curiosity about our place in the void.
This scientific reality of a massive, geologically active natural satellite heavily influencing our planet is incredible in its own right. But the enduring appeal of the hollow moon asks something profoundly human of us. Are we projecting our fundamental human need to not be alone onto the vastness of the universe? Whether you look up and see a miraculous natural wonder or choose to dream of an ancient artificial sentinel, the moon remains a beautiful, mesmerizing mystery. It forces us to look up into the night sky, to wonder about our origins, and to keep looking deeper into the darkness. Thank you for joining me on this explainer. Keep exploring and keep asking questions.